I don't know anything about Game of Thrones or House of Dragon or Vhaghar. I just want to see if it can survive on Skull Island, okay? Because I like these videos where Goji takes like things from other series or games or whatever and puts them in like Skull Island or whatever and sees how they would survive. Like I really like these. Like I watched it with the Giga. I didn't. I wasn't a YouTuber at the time. Whenever I watched those, by the way, so that's why there's no video on that. But I watched that with the Giga and Skull Island and Jurassic Park, the Giga from Ark. I am curious to see how this is going to go. So yeah, let's just jump straight in, shall we?
Today on Goji Center, two cinematic universes will collide as we witness Vhaghar, queen of all dragons, stop by one of the most dangerous places in the Monsterverse, Skull Island. Settling in nature's epitome of hell will not be easy, as this place is crawling with the worst detestable and battle-hardened creatures imaginable. Will she survive, or will Skull Island demote her to the lower ranks of the food chain? Make sure—
Who knows what's going to happen. All I know is that they're definitely going to have an issue with probably the skull crawlers, especially the big one. And yeah, they're definitely having an issue with Kong and or Kamazots. Yeah.
To stick around to find out, subscribe, and let's dive right in. For those who aren't familiar with the dragons from the Song of Ice and Fire, don't worry, we'll give you a quick rundown of what type of creatures we're talking about. In this series, dragons are legendary, fire-breathing creatures known for their immense size, strength, and longevity. These dragons, like the popular Balerion, the Black Dread, Vhaghar, and Drogon, can grow indefinitely, becoming larger and more powerful as they age, provided they have enough food. Covered in tough, heat-resistant scales,
They look cool as shit.
Possess formidable natural armor that protects them from most attacks. Their fire breath is incredibly potent, so much that it's capable of melting steel. These dragons are also highly intelligent, capable of racking up valuable combat experience over their long life, given that they don't get killed. And in this episode, it just so happens that Vhaghar is in fact one of the most experienced dragons in this franchise. To come up with a fair and accurate verdict on whether or not she can survive this island, we'll give a more detailed rundown of her abilities and physical traits before she arrives on Skull Island. We don't have much time left. She's closing in quite fast.
Oh boy.
Vhaghar, at the time during the events depicted in the book Fire and Blood or HBO's hit series House of the Dragon, was the largest dragon left alive. In her early years, she was part of a powerful trio of dragons who conquered a part of the world known as Westeros. Being the smallest of those three dragons at the time, Vhaghar gained valuable experience fighting alongside another large dragon known as Meraxus and the notorious Balerion the Black Dread. After the death of the other two dragons, Vhaghar remained the largest dragon during the events of Fire and Blood. How big was she? Well, estimates are all over, but the word from the VFX artist did imply that the wingspan of this animal was 150 meters wide, proportionally putting her entire body length more or less at 90 meters, depending on her posture. For reference, her wingspan, that is, fully extended, would actually surpass the entire height of legendary Godzilla. So yes, as we can see, Vhaghar is actually no pushover. This is without mentioning her other abilities, also present in the rest of the dragons in this franchise. To begin, all of these dragons based on their anatomy would technically be considered wyverns, given that they only have 2 legs, have pointy tails, and use their wings for both air and ground locomotion.
Yeah, they do look like kind of like wyverns, don't they? The only wyverns I really know of are the ones from Ark, but yeah, they definitely look. I can definitely see a bit of resemblance in them, though.
They grow indefinitely, meaning that as long as they are alive, they'll continue to grow, depending on other factors as well, such as where they are kept, if they are.
So this motherfucker could actually just keep on growing and be as big as that mega kaiju or whatever with the giant skull thing in the New Empire. I haven't looked into that. I don't know. I should probably watch Goji Center's video on it because he has a video about that, and I didn't watch it. Maybe I'll watch it in the future.
Fed well, etc. Vhaghar, in this case, was a dragon that did live a very long time, more than 180 years. Note that not all dragons got to live this long, most of which would get killed in combat. Lastly, we must mention the obvious: fire. That's right, in this universe, fire is one of the most feared weapons of all, wielded by all dragons, but Vhagar's fire was probably—
with the medieval settings that Game of Thrones does have. At least I'm assuming it's just straight up medieval. Like, I don't know anything about Game of Thrones, okay? I just know that there's dragons in it. But with the medieval setting they have, yeah, fire would definitely be an issue to be faced against, yeah.
One of the worst, known to incinerate entire cities and hot enough to melt armor and even stone. And, oh, looks like Vhaghar is just arriving.
Oh, alright.
Okay, so, like every other living creature, as soon as an animal moves into a new unknown territory, their objective is to try to settle in as well as possible. As seen in our previous episode discussing the Night Fury in Skull Island, Vhaghar will
yeah,
also...
I did watch that. That was a really good video. And spoilers for those who haven't seen it, that thing pretty much dominated the island. Well, except for Camazotz, yeah. And a little iffy with between him and Kong, yeah. But it seemed to be more like those two would like coexist. But yeah, just a little spoiler for anyone who haven't seen it. Yeah, and I did react to that, so go check that out if you want to, I guess.
So try to meet her base biological needs as quickly as possible. This includes breathable air, water, food, stable body temperature, and shelter. Fortunately for an airborne creature like Vhaghar, she has the advantage of flight.
Yep.
Here's a good time to emphasize another characteristic of the dragons from this universe. They are exceptionally smart. Some may argue a little too smart.
Really?
But put simply, these animals are very good problem solvers, have a very good memory, form deep bonds with their riders, and are able to connect with them emotionally.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, I imagine Vhaghar would go far, but I feel like it would stop maybe with the big skull crawler, maybe. But I'm pretty sure it does stop whenever it comes to Kong and Camazotz, though, yeah.
Many of them have their own personalities, and younger dragons are usually the reckless ones that get killed rather quickly. Vhaghar in this case has enough experience to make the right decisions as soon as she enters this territory. During her earlier years, she would have been introduced to the concept of scouting enemy territory, first flying very high to look down at enemy defenses, their position on the map, and waiting for the right time to engage in combat, and listening to her rider if the odds are in her favor. Or not. But still, in this scenario, Vhaghar will be flying high to scout the entirety of this island, taking note of different types of terrain, any predators of note big enough to be seen from high altitudes, where water sources are, identifying prey animals, and figuring out...
Is that supposed to be Doug right here? Because if that's... I don't know if that is supposed to be Doug, but if that is, then Vhagar's fucked. Vhagar's gonna get fucked. Doug will absolutely dominate Vhaghar.
What to avoid. But will she meet any resistance in the air? Well, she just might. Enjoying this episode? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button to not miss any cool breakdowns, size comparisons, what-if scenarios like this one, and the upcoming face-off. And don't forget to check out our merch store, too.
I didn't know we had another upcoming face-off. That'll be interesting to see.
There's no such thing as safe on this island.
True.
The words borrowed from Dr. Grant would be better applied here, but also apply in the skies.
Yeah, well, I think it's equally as applicable to Isla Nublar and Isla Sunar, or Sorna, or whatever, as well. But, yeah, no such thing as safe anywhere in these damn islands.
Surrounding this place.
Like, just stay away from him entirely, okay? Safety don't exist. Safety is out of the vocabulary and existence entirely.
Up here we find one type of creature that will
and so is Mercy too. Mercy as well.
Probably, at best, be a serious nuisance to Vhaghar. Psycho vultures. These animals are more or less the drug addicts of Skull Island, ingesting the toxic properties of a certain type of pufferfish, instigating a crazy killing spree using their sharp claws, razor-sharp teeth, and electric shocks. These tend to fly alongside a few individuals, anywhere from 3 up to a dozen, maybe more. Vhaghar will inevitably run into a flock of these psychos and get zapped in the process. Yeah. But will this bring her down?
Probably not.
No.
Probably just be
Remember, an animal this large is too big to be brought down by a few psycho vultures spitting small electrical currents. Will they?
It's just minor inconvenience at best, honestly. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Attack an animal
I don't see it doing any lasting damage, though. No.
larger than itself? Yes, during the events of Kingdom Kong, this guy was attacked by a flock of these animals. So it's safe to assume that Psycho Vultures will also foolishly attack Vhaghar. And foolishly because as soon as she feels the first zap, she'll unleash a flame so big and hot that it will be capable of turning all of these animals into ashes in midair.
Yep.
Any surviving Psycho Vultures will fly away and never mess with Vhaghar again. We'd like to think that it won't take long for Vhaghar to find a place to nest in Skull Island, landing in the high elevation areas where she could have a good view of what's going on in her surroundings. Next, she'll try to find food. In the TV series, we see that dragons are known to eat livestock mostly. When that's scarce, they'll then resort to eating other supplements. This affinity to livestock will be satisfied with the presence of more or less similar animals, such as the cervids that dwell on this island. But a more proper meal that will meet this dragon's high caloric needs will be something like a skur buffalo. Although these are dangerous animals, Vhaghar will only need to hover above one of these creatures and blast fire hot enough to kill and cook this animal alive. Meaning animals would flee and leave this colossal animal alone while she eats. So far, it seems like this animal is settling in pretty well. Animals like Mother Longlegs, Icarus Tiger, Death Jackals, Juvenile Skullcrawlers, and Gigacrocs are really no match for an animal that measures around 90 meters in length and can dispatch them easily by just burping fire. If, for whatever reason, an animal like the Mother Longlegs decided to swarm this dragon, they'd be risking not only their own lives, but the lives of other species as well. She hates being bothered and is seen to lose her temper quickly. So upon realizing that they are more or less hard to see in the bamboo forests, she'll likely light up the entire area, killing them all at once and any other creatures in this forest. Are there
Well, if that's the case, then, well, I guess she has an affinity for pissing off Smokey the Bear then.
any other animals that will hinder Vhaghar from meeting her base needs? Let's talk about water. Skull Island is notorious for having plenty of creatures that blend in seamlessly with their surroundings, a couple of which live in fresh water. Siren jaw crocodiles are huge animals that ambush unsuspecting prey when they get near. Another one known as the swamp.
I went over with that with the Toothless video. Yeah, that's and yikes. Honestly, if I was on this island, I'd probably somehow end up surviving through hell, and then finally get a moment's notice, and that'll be what does me in. Knowing my luck, that'll be what happens. Yeah.
Swamp locust uses its tree-like limbs to ensnare prey. However, we are not talking about a small animal here. We're talking about a massive 90-meter-long creature with one of the largest skulls in the series. Any foolish siren jaw that dares attack a creature this large will probably be able to bite the head to no avail, only to find itself turned into roast croc soup, with the rest of the lake inhabitants as the sides. So, in the end, any species of animal that unsuccessfully attacks Vhaghar will end up writing itself in this creature's menu. To be fair, however, not every animal in Skull Island is this stupid.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Just like in the real world, seeing how lions won't attack a fully grown elephant, most Skull Island creatures would simply try to avoid Vhaghar, lest they get roasted. But there are some animals that will eventually cause some serious trouble. There are 3 that we will discuss in this episode, and one you won't even
Pretty sure that's supposed to be Camazotz.
see coming. We'll start with Ramarak. That's right, of course we're going to bring this one up.
Yeah.
What would happen if this animal ran into
Is that actually
Vhaghar?
what they named it? Ramarak? Pretty cool name.
Realistically,
I just call it the big one. Because that's just what I remember it as. A Ramarak's pretty cool.
speaking, given that Vhaghar will either spend most of her time on high altitudes, that being flying, or in her high-perched nest, it's likely that she'll be able to see any of these 3 first before she engages in combat. Up here, she'll be able to assess the threat and even figure out what to do if one of these decides to come chasing after her. Vhaghar is not stupid either. Neither is she a troublemaker. In the Song of Ice and Fire series, these dragons pretty much coexist with humans, to some degree. The wild dragons with outriders never seek to wipe out all humanity and usually keep to themselves. Vhaghar is no different, and most likely will not instigate any of these fights unless provoked. A fight between these two would be started by Ramarak, but since he can't fly, it would have to be Vhaghar who must oblige. If for whatever reason she determines that Ramarak must die, she'd simply fly low enough to unleash a flaming inferno that will envelop Ramarak and critically injure him.
Yeah.
Even if the Skull Devil uses its leaping ability and releases his tongue to try and reach the dragon, this fire would have been released anyways. Vhaghar by no means will risk engaging in a purely melee confrontation, so fire would likely be the way to go here.
Yeah.
This confrontation wouldn't...
Aren't they weak to fire too? Are they? I don't know. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if they are or not. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking it could give it some trouble, like maybe if it like snuck up on Vhaghar or something, because I can probably see something like that happening. But if that's not the case, then yeah, then the big one's pretty much screwed.
Exactly be fair, since we're talking about an airborne animal with fire ability against a terrestrial creature whose species isn't really fire resistant.
Okay,
Without a
so
real way
right.
to ambush Vhaghar, it seems like Ramarak isn't really going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But what about Kong? Well, this one is interesting, and will likely not go the way you want it to.
Yeah, because if Vhaghar won't attack unless provoked or anything, then I can definitely see this working out like it does with Toothless. I can totally see them just, being cool with each other. It's like, who cares? They're there, I'm here. We don't mess with each other. That's fine. I can totally see something like that happening. Like, they probably know they exist, but they probably just ignore each other, probably. Yeah.
Monsterverse fans among you know for a fact that Kong isn't necessarily a troublemaker either.
No.
In Skull Island, he detests those who kill for no reason. He hates skull crawlers, but understands that all animals need to eat.
Oh, he'd probably team up with Vhaghar on the damn skull crawlers. He'd be like, hey man, want to go have some fun and killing these fuckers? Sure, let's do it.
And being a meat eater himself, he'll only eat what's necessary. Vhaghar is more or less the same, actually. But will they have any form of conflict? To be more clear and make this easy to imagine, we can discuss what happens if Vhaghar pulls up to Skull Island in 1973 and in the year 2019. In these two scenarios, we have Kong, who is 104 feet in height, and 2019, where he's in the 330-plus foot range. Teenager Kong in 1973, upon seeing Vhaghar, realizes that this animal is better left alone, as long as it doesn't cause any trouble, such as bombing the place for no real apparent reason. These two animals standing next to each other would look like an interesting fight. Consider that Kong in his adolescent and adult forms isn't really the most fireproof, but this guy is pretty good at using tools, spears especially. And
consider the two did fight, it would definitely be pretty interesting though. It definitely would be.
Considering that this sort of projectile has been the most effective man-made anti-dragon solution in the series, one well-placed hit to this slow-moving dragon will potentially result in a critical injury. A large, full-grown adult Kong in 2019 would prove even more dangerous, dwarfing Vhaghar in size and strength. One hit with a projectile such as this one is instant death. Likewise, one Inferno Blast...
That is, if Kong doesn't jump up and grab his tail and just throw him on the ground and just smash him to death.
Such as this one to the adolescent one is likely the equivalent of a third-degree burn for this Kong, leaving him critically injured, if not killed. But will this even happen? No. Both animals would likely stay out of each other's way. Both are intelligent creatures and will more likely than not learn to respect each other's boundaries. And over time, even develop some sort of symbiotic dynamic between them, since they are both emotional creatures who understand gestures, feelings, and are both not necessarily mindless killers. This interaction between both creatures can be a topic of its own. But now that we determined that this isn't really a plausible conflict, let's talk about an animal that will definitely be a serious problem. The animal that we're about to discuss isn't really the most popular creature in the Monsterverse, not the strongest megafauna, but one that will potentially cause a serious problem to Vhaghar. The killer chameleon. One? No, a whole pack of them. Let us explain. These animals are...
Camazotz? Are we just not bringing Camazotz into the equation? Or does Camazotz not live on Skull Island or something? I don't know. I don't know where the whole thing with Camazotz happened at. I thought it happened on Skull Island because he fought Kong, but... I don't know. I should probably pick up some damn comics and read them.
Aren't the largest next to Vhaghar herself.
That or just find enough YouTube shorts going over everything, The
real strength of these creatures is their agility and bite. But you may be thinking, how can these creatures reach Vhaghar if she's way up high in the air?
Well, they're
Good
chameleons. I imagine
thinking.
they
We'll have you
camouflage.
know about a third ability. The notorious long, elastic, ballistic tongue present in real-life chameleons alive today. Here's where we'll have our issue. If Vhaghar ever gets too close to these well-camouflaged mega chameleons, these would all either leap or use their long tongues to grip onto the body of Vhaghar, making her lose her balance and be brought down. Because this isn't a single animal, Vhaghar would be facing formidable, agile foes on many fronts. Even if she does manage to roast one of them, the remaining chameleons would have enough time to leap and gore into this animal. The outcome depends on who sees who first. Given that Vhaghar is known to be a notoriously good ambusher, to make up for its slow speed, it's likely that she would in fact be the first to see these anyways. If she doesn't, then she risks being brought down by a pack of these reptiles. So, to answer the question, will Vhaghar survive this place? The answer, yes. In fact, she'll fit right in. Her characteristics will allow her to more or less coexist with Kong, and whenever food becomes scarce, she'd simply find a new home. There are very few animals here that would pose a serious threat. Titans such as Camazotz wouldn't really be a problem, since he only dwells in very dark environments. Furthermore, it's
well, I guess that explains that then. I guess he is in Skull Island. Okay.
Likely that the experienced dragons from this series, such as
that made sense because I was thinking back to the Toothless video, and they wouldn't have brought up Camazotz if he wasn't in that one. So yeah.
Vermithor, Meraxus, and Balerion would likely fit right in on this island as well.
Oh yeah, probably. Well, that was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was interesting, and I learned a little bit more about some dragons from Game of Thrones. They seem pretty cool. I'm probably never gonna watch Game of Thrones, but yeah, it does look. The dragons look cool as well. They're dragons. Dragons look cool. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, check out the original one, which will be in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.